Okay, so we'll leave the screen on so that people can see who are here. Sue Edward of Missouri running for Congress, Matt Ho running for US Senate for North Carolina. We have Tom, Mayor, and Susan, and I'm sorry for last name, running for local offices in Michigan, and you'll be able to talk about that in a bit. Possibility of talking about ballot access, headaches, what you would do if you were in office to address the things you're going to have to deal with. Oh, okay, and then the questions from the audience. Oh, Bernie August from Delaware. Okay, ran for U.S. Congress 2012, 2016, an observer. Okay, so Bernie, thanks for joining us. And then if you have questions and you can't get on, just go ahead and type them in the chat. So I guess I was going to say, let's start with ballot status, because although people who are, we've been talking about ballot issues, but that seems to be a major issue, and it's gotten a lot of worse in a lot of places. And Matt Ho has now made national news because of what, including gaining sympathy from some Democrats who didn't like what the North Carolina Democrats did to him. But maybe we want to start with you. Go ahead and talking about the lawsuit. We can hear from New York, and we can then get an update from from Missouri, and then we can all be jealous of Michigan because. So. Go ahead. And then Chris from New York, if you have anything also that you would be interested to share about the lawsuit there. Matthew, why don't you give us a rundown of where things are? Nothing is, haven't been any updates, have there recently?
We filed for an emergency injunction on Thursday. So we further stated our case. You know, we had our declarations put in, and Oliver Hall, who is our attorney from the Center for Competitive Democracy, who a lot of you folks probably know, you know, he's just been doing a great job for us. And so now we await the state's response, and then we get to submit another response, and then we're in front of the judge on August 8th for the hearing. So we got 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I guess, or so until that occurs. The ballot printing deadline here is the 15th, and still not sure. So that, of course, is, I think, their last line of defense, right? Exhaust this, delay it, deny it until we hit that ballot printing deadline, and then they can say, "Oh, so sorry, you know, we've already printed ballots." In North Carolina, there has been precedent, though, of the ballots being delayed in their printing, so it's not something we're overly concerned about, and it appears to us that the judge is pretty sympathetic towards us in that sense. And so I'm not overly worried that strategy is going to work, but we are also not just facing the state, but the Democratic Party, the DSCC, has put a motion in to intervene so that they would be co-defendants. And in that motion, they also make it clear that they have interests other than the state has. So that basically they say more or less that whatever happens with this legal challenge, we are going to pursue our own legal challenge. So we expect to, if we win, I'm sure the state will appeal. And if we win that appeal, or when we win that appeal, I should say, then we'll receive a challenge from the DSCC or whichever Democratic organization is going to do that. And so, yeah, the whole strategy of delaying us, exhausting us, making us do nothing but focus on this, et cetera, et cetera. But I've not come across anyone who's looked at our circumstances objectively and said, "You guys are, you know, what are you kidding me? You guys are crazy." I mean, everyone I've encountered who's looked at this objectively, wherever they are on the political spectrum, including a lot of Democrats, have said this is really brazen. This is really beyond what we've seen before. And I think it's very dangerous. And a lot of other people are saying it's dangerous because it really would establish a precedent where the party in power is allowed to just deny access based upon their whim, without evidence, without rule of law, without due process, just based upon their desire not to have a competitor on the ballot. Because that's really, when you deconstruct the State Board of Elections argument, that's all it really comes down to, is just basically, we don't like it, so we're not going to do it.
Yeah. And as I mentioned the other day, actually, the Democrats might have done you a favor now that it's
right.
They've given you more publicity than you'd ever have gained.
Right.
Running as a third-party candidate. Yeah. And I'd be interested in hearing again why you chose to run as a third-party candidate. But before that, I want to get to a couple other things. We have a new person that came in The name is Owen Loken. And I'm just going to switch back to gallery view briefly here. Owen, if you could do a very brief, just who you are you running for office at any time?
Owen Loken. I am not running for any office at this time because I'm 17, but I'm just joined in because I was interested.
Good, well, good. Yeah, it's not far off, so good. We need more people willing to run, so great, thanks for joining us. What state are you in?
Minnesota.
Oh, okay, good. That's so I see I have a couple hands up. Do want to get to a couple of the other people to gripe about ballot access, but Amy, I saw you, and someone may need to mute. We're getting a little feedback, but Amy and then Starlene, and then go ahead. And I see Amy has some candidates to plug too, so go ahead, Amy.
I just had a quick question for Matthew as a donor. Are you able at this time to do any campaigning at all? I hope.
Yeah, we are. And we're really trying hard not to be captured by this, right? Not to allow this to be our narrative. So, and doing our best. So like a lot of these interviews, they start off with, hey, Matt, when did you guys stop committing fraud? That kind of gotcha. We're going to control the narrative question. And the thing to do is to pivot that, right? And to get to the, while they don't want us on the ballot because we're offering, we're advancing single payer, we're advancing affordable housing, we're advancing livable wages. These are the reasons why they're trying to keep us off the ballot. So trying to use their actions to explain why we're running and why we have support from people, why that threatens the duopoly. So even though we are caught to a degree in like having to concentrate on this, we are able to use it to our advantage and to campaign upon, because this really does explain a lot of what we're doing, a lot of why we advance multi-party democracy, a lot of why we say the lesser of two evil system is corrupt, it's undemocratic, it's harmful, right? I mean, so, we are doing our best not to be just laser focused on this and to try and continue to campaign. But it is hard. I mean, like we're a grassroots campaign. We don't have a lot of people. Most of our people are part-time, right? And part-time volunteers. I mean, so there's only so much time in a day. So it does consume a lot of what we're doing. And we just try and remind each other constantly, hey, let's keep in mind the campaign and not the lawsuit specifically.
Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, thank you. Now I see, I'm sorry, I was going to go back to speaker view, but yes, anyway, let's see. Amy also mentioned that she was supporting candidates Natalie Parvicini, who I believe is running for governor, and Mike Beilstein in Oregon. Is it Beilstein or Beilstein?
I think it's Beilstein.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, Oregon is another one, and I'd be interested in hearing. Starlene had a question. Then I'd like to get back again and hear from New York and maybe from Oregon and Michigan about your ballot access issues. That's been a recurring theme for some who have been here, but I think for newcomers and people who may be seeing some of these clips, it'll be very instructive. So, Starlene, you had a question.
Actually, Amy asked the same question I was going to ask. So,
what was that?
I was going to ask what Amy asked, if Matt was continuing to do campaign during.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, hi, Bernie. Yes.
Bernie.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Super. Okay. I want to go back. I just wanted to test my mic.
Okay. Well, let's move on. We can talk a bit about this too. I'm curious, Christine Schmidt, have you been following the lawsuit? Well, I know they threw out the lawsuit there, but do you have any update? I guess people there New York are going to be running as write-ins. Christine, were you? Go ahead. Well, if not, that's something, again, somebody needs to, not sure what the issue is, but somebody needs to mute here. It seems like we lost somebody. I think we lost Sue Edward. Oh no, Sue is there.
No, I'm here.
Yeah. So Sue, maybe you can give a quick update again. Again, some of us have heard this, but quick, and then we can maybe move on to talking about some of the other campaigns as well. So you guys have until when to submit your ballot?
We have until August 1st to submit 10,000 signatures. I don't know what our exact count is. We have people out. Obviously, this weekend is kind of a all hands on deck. Probably 8,500-ish. So it's going to be close. It's all volunteer. We are not spot check. We are checking every signature to make sure the congressional district is accurate, to make sure that's legible. We're looking them up in the online, database, make sure they're registered and all that. So we're confident in the quality of our signatures. Now, obviously, some will get eliminated if the person moved away or accidentally signed it more than once, because we've been doing this for 1.5 years now. So it's possible someone signed 18 months ago and signs again without realizing it. But August 1st is our deadline, so fingers crossed.
Great. Well, good luck. Good luck. Well, I'm going to move on to the other candidates here, Michigan and Delaware quickly, and then hopefully talk a little bit, also circle back to what kinds of things you really want to campaign on. And then we'll have hopefully a chance for Q&A. Tom Mayer, I know you've held office and you're running again in Michigan, and I know Michigan's ballot access issue is much different. You have someone run and get a certain percentage and maintain your ballot status, so it's not difficult. I am saying for those, it might be good for people to mute. I'm hearing some kind of, my phone over in case it's not me, but I'm hearing.
Holly, you're the only box that's lighting up on my end, so I don't know.
Well, that's what I was looking at too, and I couldn't see any, so I don't know what I'm hearing. Are other people hearing feedback? Maybe it's just me.
I hear a little bit of weird noise in the background, but.
No, I know. That's what I was looking too, and I could only see whoever was talking. So we'll see. Maybe it's just, maybe it's COINTEL Pro. They're on to us. But anyway, Tom Mayer, if you could talk, just introduce, why you're running, what you're running for, and you and your wife both, because Michigan is one of those places where you've got the down ticket races that actually earn a benefit.
Yes. Again, I'm running for county commissioner, and I was elected in 2016, and that's the highest position anybody in Michigan has been elected to thus far. What's nice in Michigan about the ballot access is that instead of the top candidate that they're looking at to keep us going as being the governor or the president, it's actually the highest vote getter on the statewide ballot. And those tend to be at the universities. So that helps my wife. She's running for Wayne State Board of Governors. So as long as we get between 50 to 60,000 votes at the very most, we're assured of being on the ballot. That's just one candidate getting that many votes. And historically in Michigan, a couple of times a candidate, maybe it was for U of M, went over 100,000 votes. So if you have to have 50,000 or so and you get 100,000, nobody's ever going to challenge it, not at least on that basis. So I don't remember what year it was when we switched to the highest vote getter versus the highest office, but it's better. And it wasn't our lawsuit. I don't remember who pushed it. It could have been an independent actually that pushed that, or even more bizarrely, it could have been the Republicans. I don't remember, but it wasn't us, and it benefits us. So we're all grateful for that. So we just keep rolling over since we first got on the ballot, like around 1998 or 2000, somewhere in there. And those were the Ralph Nader presidential elections. So just to put a closer date to it, he ran twice, and pretty sure both times you could vote for him statewide. If not, it was definitely by the second time with Winona LaDuke. So,
Great, yeah.
Social justice is really one of the issues down there at Wayne State. She got my wife got over just right around 100,000 votes in 2020. So that's really nice that we can sleep well based on that. I'm sorry that it's more difficult in other states, but if other states are really looking to remodel how they do their ballot access, they might want to look at our laws because it's working here.
That's a good thing to note, because I think that some states that have had good climate and a culture open to third parties and and other things in ballot accessibility make good examples. Mine was a decent place until a couple of weeks ago, a couple of years ago. We have something going on here. I think Matt Ho's dogs are a grandson having a temper tantrum. Let's see. I bragged to my husband that only I have been cat bombed by a presidential candidate, Dr. Stein's big tabby.
Yeah, one of the other ways that we kept relevant and can be discussed in the public and maybe even in a newspaper now and then is that we ask the League of Women Voters to accept us, and they have. I don't remember which election it was, but it wasn't always true back when we first started. We had to kind of develop ourselves a little bit so that they would acknowledge that we existed, even though they could pick up the ballot and see our name on it.
Well, that's good to know too. And yeah, my state had it pretty receptive for most of the time. They've been receptive to including us, but and things like that. But well, let me see. Oh, Bernie August, you want to introduce a little bit about your campaign?
Well, former campaigns, I'm kind of laid up right now. I was thinking about doing it again, but we're short in Delaware of registered voters to meet our 1.1% quota for running for office. I just wanted to speak a little bit about our hopes with dealing with the Democratic Party, because I know exactly what Matthew is going through, because being from the state where the president of the United States is from, it is a bitch for a third party to try to run. And I was arrested in 2012 during the debate at the University of Delaware. They wouldn't let me in. They let me get in, and then they gave, okay, does anybody have anything to say? And then when I stood up to say, they arrested me. And then that's not the first time. I've been arrested a couple different times too. I don't like being arrested. My whole thing is disgraceful. And I think it's, this is the idea of like the Democrats or the Republicans or these two status parties are, they give you these niceties, but they control every political aspect and organization in your state. Like the gentleman just mentioned the League of Women Voters. We held debates in our state. And when I debated, it was John Carney at the time who was in the House. The first debate, televised debate we had on TV at the University of Delaware, Delaware Law School, Widener University. I made them look like fools. And then after that, I was totally blacked out of everything.
That's often been a problem. Yeah.
So I'm just saying to you is that, so what I like about now is because we have our own social media. That's what I want to try to get to. What Matt's doing, and we see them all over the time with the new bloggers and the new stats. Now, even though some of them are being canceled, we have to keep up layers of that going. And it's more important that we form our own communications media, which we are doing. But if we cannot expect at all, except we had RT at least to have a generalized debate, that we cannot expect to be on mainstream television or mainstream media. So I mean, this is very important. What I can see is that that Matthew or any other candidates that are running for office, including myself if in the future or any Green candidate, that we must have a consistent media presence, our own created through Twitter or whatever it is we can, and try to get as many users to follow us and our party, as well as, the other parties are doing it too, but to use these independent medias, because if you think that the mainstream media is going to help you, and that's even the local mainstream media, public televisions in your state, they'll censor the hell out of you. Especially
I'm sorry, I want to move on just because we have other things
Okay.
we'll talk about. But thank you. And I will say something as someone who's actually worked in the actual mainstream media or more central or left mainstream media. They will pay attention when you're doing something of real news. A lot of stuff we do isn't real news, and they, when they want to cover an election, they want they're going to look at people who they think are going to win. And that's not totally fair, but you know, I think you're absolutely right. We want to create our own media, but we want it to be solid. You want it to be credible. Journalistic ethics ought to pay. Of course, we're in the promotion business, but you want to be ethical with that. But I would say when something happens like with Matt Ho's campaign, it gets that. You definitely, that makes national news, but definitely that's something we can use on our own social media to get a lot more headway. And then other candidates can say, well, wait a minute, you know, here we are too. By the way, help us get these signatures, and that really does snowball and help. Let's see, Carice message is, has anyone discussed why Maine is so successful and has the most elected Greens? We have not. I can tell you for one thing, it was a combination of having accessible ballot access laws and the kind of people who would go for a third party. Minnesota and California are similar in certain ways, and that's what they generally credit that. Is anybody else here who might speak for that? I don't know. So I'm not sure if anyone can talk to that or not, but if anyone has had, you know, we've heard from Michigan where they have an easier way to get on the ballot access, and also to make inroads into real elected politics. I would like to get back to what I had talked about before, because I think this would be of interest to any viewers. And let's see, we have, I guess.
Hey, Holly, I just have a question for Bernie. Bernie, can you explain what the ballot access requirement in Delaware is? I think I heard you say it's based on donors.
The ballot access is not based on donors. I mean, the legislator has set up that you have to have 1.1% of people signed up of a party to get ballot status. So in Delaware, for a third party, I think with our small population, it could be like 1,000 to 1,200 people or 700, something like that.
Okay.
Okay, and what happens is, as you know, people move in and out of your state and change addresses and all of that. So Delaware, our registration is below right now. And so we have to try, and we have a certain period of time, because you see, when they have, we have our election calendar like every other state does. And for us to get it done, we can't poach other parties to join us. I mean, they lock it down where you can't go to we can register people that have never been registered, but we can't poach from the Democrats or the Republicans during certain periods when it comes to like the what do you call that? Oh gosh, I got COVID brain.
The election schedule, yeah.
Yeah, the election schedule with you know, primaries, you know. Like the presidential primary for the Democrats and the Republicans, we have a certain period where the whole registration system gets locked down, except if you're putting new people on it. So, you know, we have a certain window in the beginning of the year, and like after September or October, whenever it is, they have these primaries. And that's how it works here in Delaware. We have you know, there's quite a few parties in Delaware. To me, I'm like you, Matthew. I believe that we're going to have to get into unity parties and try to build ourselves an access candidates like that. But that's basically what it is.
Thanks, Bernie.
Welcome.
Yeah, doesn't that make you want to beat your head against the wall at times? Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
they were nervous because they needed 20 more people to join. Anyway, Ann Link has just joined. Ann Link, and since we're running out of time, Ann, if you want to very briefly introduce yourself. Ann is a member of our media committee and has been doing a lot of good work with video editing and such. But
sure, I can just introduce myself, Ann Link. I'm Green Party of New York State, and I'm also the co-chair of the National Women's Caucus, and we're going to have a workshop at 4 o'clock with some candidates. You know, I'm just thinking, I think these events are wonderful, but I think we have to think about how we can reach more people, because this is just a fantastic outreach tool for people to be able to talk personally with candidates. And we have a lot of people on our Facebook pages. And I think that's something that can be a challenge for us in the future, is how we can engage more people in these events where we spend a lot of time and have a great event, and then we just don't have a lot of people participating over.
That's a good idea. I know Scott Laugenauer, who's the person that came up with the idea with this for this kind of thing, thought of having more of these and just more ongoing throughout the year, being a little more advertised and open to people. And we have some challenges with that too, but something to think about, definitely. Anyway, so to get back to two things, we've done a round of introductions, and we've been talking about ballot access headaches because we've had people from both New York and Matt Ho here from North Carolina, and then also Sue Edward in Missouri, where they're struggling to finish up here. But I was very interested in, and maybe others might have questions if you want to pose something, but this is going to end in about 15 minutes. This was a shorter one. I was curious, I'd like to hear if you, I guess especially from the top level candidates, because well, from all of them, if you were elected, how would you actually deal with some of the things that would be on your plate? And I'll just note, Matthew has written something here. Media communication is really exciting. We're just beginning to realize the change that technology is bringing. 10 years ago, you used to have to go to a studio or a landline. 5 years ago, doing something like this on Zoom would have been difficult. We have new technologies, and definitely this has been, yeah, absolutely right, present great possibilities. But anyway, to get back to that, unless somebody else has a quick comment or another question, I guess I would like to start with, and I'll start again with Matt Ho and then Sue, and then we can go on down the line and talk to the folks in Michigan. Matt, if you were elected to the U.S. Senate, is there any particular issue or particular piece of legislation or something that you'd be having to address? How would you bring your politics to bear?
Sure. I keep coming back to healthcare just because people are dying, people are suffering, people in my life are suffering because of it. People I love, right? So, and that's the same for, I said this yesterday in the Candidate Café, I say this all the time, and it's the truth. That's who we are. That's why we're doing this. We've come to this point where we're involved in these kinds of politics because we need this change for people in our lives that we love. So the healthcare, and I mean, that doesn't mean, and everything else too, climate and housing. And I mean, there's so much, right? I think nowhere would be a bad start. With all the issues that we're facing, but I really would utilize my role as a disruptor. The U.S. Senate, a lone senator, is a very powerful position, and I would utilize that to disrupt as much as possible in order to put pressure to change, to cause as much controversy, to bring as much attention to the issue, to put pain upon the system so that, like, as I like to say, they're not getting their $15 billion aircraft carriers until our people get health care. So just delay, deny, just be a major obstruction, be a villain to the establishment, a Robin Hood in a sense, and utilize that then publicly. Try and use that as a soapbox. Like, this Ho guy is messing everything up in the Senate, and very, I hate to say this, but very analogous to kind of like what Trump represented to many people. It is terrible that this is what happened, but many people looked at him as some type of outsider who was going to come in and drain the swamp, right? And of course, far from it, the guy is a complete crook and con artist and everything else. But like that's what people want. That's what people need. People are desperate for that. So, utilize that opportunity to disrupt the system so the pressure's there, and it also builds excitement among the public for something different. And healthcare, I think, would be my primary focus in order to try and do that. And hopefully that would encourage other members in the Senate and in the House to side with me, maybe give them some bit of a backbone. But then, of course, I see it as being an opportunity then to build the Green Party further, right, and get more people attracted to the Green Party and the larger leftist movement.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was thinking, Bernie Sanders has done, and there are others that have done some of that too. But you're right. You know, one voice can make a difference and eventually gain traction. So just because I see Margaret Elizabeth also entered the room, and because we're going to run out of time, I'll just mention Margaret Elizabeth is one of the members of the National Steering Committee, and they are running for re-election, and also with the media presence here. So if we have a chance, they may have a question or two for you, but I would like to hear from Sue Edwards, and then also the folks in Michigan. Sue, if you were elected to Congress, and we know it inspired you to run, but is it, in that regard or anything else, how would you deal with legislation or particular issues that come before you?
Well, I think I agree with Matthew. The healthcare is the #1 issue, but I don't want healthcare. First of all, universal healthcare is a human right, but it should not be tied to where you live. So for example, a woman's right to reproductive healthcare should not be restricted just because she lives in one state versus another state. It should be accessible to everybody. But healthcare, and then tied into that is education, you know, like sex education for kids beginning at a young age. Hey, no means no, personal respect and boundaries. So we're not perpetuating the rape culture. And if a woman chooses to have children, let's help her with all the assistance she might need. That means guaranteed housing and healthcare, education for the kids, access to food. It's a bigger picture of just basic human rights and human need, but healthcare, yes, #1.
Thank you. Going down tickets, we have Tom there, and Tom, go ahead, talk about you, and then talk about your wife's. Well, she's not here to talk for sure, but go ahead and tell us what you would do. Once again, you're running for, and you've held this job, and what you were able to accomplish, what you hope to accomplish.
Okay, I'm unmuted now, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
What did I hope to accomplish? I hope to accomplish that it's just not two parties beating each other up on all these different commissions and boards, you know, in townships and counties and cities in Michigan, that the Dems and the Republicans seem to hold the floor because they're always fighting with each other. I worked on a board where there were 6 Republicans, no Democrats, and 1 Green, and got through it pretty successfully. Maybe once or twice I was attacked and threatened with a recall, but not based on anything, just to make it back down to the one-party system here, which is Republican, basically. So the Democrats are our biggest problem. And 2 things that I've worked on during and since, and you know, I'll continue to work on them, are protecting our parks, because the government's dismantling our parks. They're selling them off actually here. And sometimes they don't even, it's not even like a regular sale, it's a giveaway. And then the government gives money to the people that they gave the park to help them maintain it for a period of time. But we lose control of it as the public in the county. The city here wants to build something called a fish pass. You can look that up in Traverse City. I won't go into details, but it's a fish sorting station. But they want to basically turn over all the soil and cut all the trees down in a park that is very nice, and it's a feature as a dam actually. So they want to take that dam out, put a different thing in called a fish pass. And I helped. And this is something I really want to tell everybody, that, you know, we hear about people going to the courts. Well, the courts actually are good for us. It's easier for us to get things changed in the courts actually than it is if we go to the ballot, because it's hard to get elected. And most times we're not given any chance of getting elected. So I'm going to give my wife a chance to speak here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, please introduce yourself again, because we haven't seen you. And yeah.
Hi, Holly. This is Susan Odgers. I'm running for Wayne State's Board of Governors. I ran in 2020. I was the highest vote getter for the Greens in Michigan, just shy of 100,000. That kept us on the ballot. I'm running again. And in the past couple of weeks, Ralph Nader has had a really good blog piece about the corporatization of American universities and colleges. And I really follow what Ralph is saying. And that's part of what I'm running on. I also unlike the D's and the R's, ask very different questions. And I've been a professor for 35 years. Wayne State is my alma mater, and students are incredibly dissatisfied with their education during these COVID years. And we have the corporatization of everything at the university level. It's affecting research, it's affecting the food service, employee relations, everything. So I will ask different questions. I'm very interested in helping organize the PRGs for students. This used to be very popular. Students have really lost their momentum in many ways. And the ones that are doing a great job of it, I want to help bring them in so that they're much more a part of the entire university. The amount of money that the candidates get from the major parties to run for these university boards is just ridiculous. It's obscene. And actually during COVID, having to do all of the campaigning pretty much virtually, because I'm 5 hours away from the Detroit area, worked really well. And I'm a person with a disability. I use a wheelchair full time. I now have breast cancer. And the virtual campaigning is really, really good. The Lansing City Pulse newspaper put out a ask to all candidates on social justice issues, and I rated 100% and was able to get their endorsement, which is very unusual for a third party. And that's in another major university town, Michigan State University. So all of those things are available to other candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And I just put up, you had sent that photo of yourself, and I hope you don't mind, but I put that up so that people could get a photo of you while you're speaking. Thank you.
Not at all.
I didn't
Thank you.
realize that you were Susan Odgers. I just knew the name Susan, but yeah, I had pointed out that this was the person who maintained ballot access for Michigan. So another one of those nice policies that many of us wish we had in our state. Want to recognize Kirit Mukherjee has also entered the cafe. Kirit is a Green in Virginia. We're getting close to the supposed end of this. We could go for a little longer if people are interested. I think this was supposed to end at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, but if there's a little interest, would like to hear just from Kirit, a brief intro from Kirit, and then also if anybody has questions for the candidates. Well, we probably have time for one question or whatever, but
yeah, I think given the conversation that we've had, people would be very interested in the 2 p.m. plenary with Richard Winger, which will be all about ballot access. So we certainly don't want to go too over.
Yeah. That's right. We do want it to be over. So we could run a few minutes late, but yeah, we don't want to go on further. But so I'll just actually, let's just go to a couple questions now. Kirit Mukherjee is Green in Virginia. He's done a lot of work with, I'm just going to gallery level if it's there, and Margaret Elizabeth. Either of you or Ann or anybody here have a question that you would like to do another final round for the candidates, and then we can wrap it up.
Hi, Matthew. This is to Matthew. I would like to know who, if you get ballot access and you're going to run, who is going to be your opponents right now?
We have a Libertarian, a Democrat, and Republican on the ballot. The Libertarian guy named Shannon Bray, a former Navy vet. They've been good to work with. The Libertarians, they've been helpful, particularly as we go through his ballot access issues. And we'll do things with them in the fall. Have our own candidate forums if we're excluded from others. The Republican is a guy named Ted Budd. He's in his third term in Congress, I believe. He is a Trump person. That's how he won in 2018. Was he? 2018 was his first time. He was a Trump guy. He's a Trump guy now. Not much more than say that he's a gun store owner. I mean, honestly, like his first television advertisement was guns and monster trucks. I'm not joking. Like that's who that is. And then the Democrat is a former judge. She's actually the Supreme Court justice. The Chief Justice for the North Carolina State Supreme Court, named Sherry Beasley. And she is very much a centrist, a Joe Biden type Democrat, not running on anything that really overlaps with us at all. I mean, like, we are very stark in our platform differences. So that's who we're up against: a corporate Democrat, a Trump Republican, and then a Libertarian.
Thank you. I don't know if that was Carrot that asked or not. It sounded like Carrot, but may not have been, but Carrot may have a question. And I see Margaret Elizabeth. Go ahead, you have a question. This may be the last one because we need to wrap it up. But Margaret Elizabeth, if you have a question, please go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is perhaps a bit long then for just having a short time left. But what I wanted to ask about was, so are any, well, I guess Matthew, since you're running at, senatorial level, are you familiar with the NEED Act of 2012? And if so, what are your opinions about trying to implement it? As an aside, the NEED Act of 2012 is the platform plank which forms the Green Platform on monetary reform. So basically my question is, what are your thoughts on implementing the green monetary reform policies?
I've not seen it and read it, so if you can send it to me, Margaret, I'm happy to look. I'm a proponent of MMT, I mean, so certainly my understanding of economics is shaped that way in terms of monetary policy, fiscal policy. So certainly, yeah, but please send it to me, and I'm happy to look at it. Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks. I do have Christine Schmidt and Ann Link both have questions. So go ahead. I'll go with Christine and then Ann. And again, we do have it. We can do a few more minutes, but just if we can.
Thank you. I just wanted to address something to Matthew. I posted your campaign pretty widely, Matthew, when you were running. I'm a human rights activist with over 100,000 people on my pages. In North Carolina, many of them are new refugees in North Carolina, primarily from Afghanistan. And I forget, I think it's a couple hundred people on that, Afghans in North Carolina. So I kept posting your page and encouraging them to work in your campaign, even though they're not citizens yet. They can get interested, and I wanted to educate them a lot about the Green Party. So I just wanted to mention that to you, if you and I can keep in touch. They are all on my Facebook page, and their page in North Carolina is Afghans in North Carolina. We'll educate these new people because the conservatives are reaching out to them and trying to get them to be Trump people. And I have been very active in trying to oppose that and get them involved in the Green Party, and I've been very successful. They would be good campaign people for you,
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I just put my email in the chat if you want to send me a note.
Very good. We'll keep in touch. I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about them because, like everywhere, rent is just insane. It's criminal. And these are folks who are living now on an incredibly limited income with no ability to get a job for the most part because of a variety of different reasons. So yeah, I'm very concerned. So definitely I'd like to hear more.
I'm encouraging them what to do. I can coach them on how to get work and how to help people. Many of them worked for our troops in Afghanistan. They're wonderful allies, and we have to take care of them now that they're here. They escaped from the Taliban terrorists and came here with their special immigrant visas. But I thought if they get involved in a campaign, they would make new friends with good Americans. They would find people who might be able to help them and guide them a little bit, maybe give them a job. It would be good for them to get involved more in an American group, like the Green Party.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you. So one last question here. Ann Link, you had a question here. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, this is a question for any of the candidates. We have these more overt and obvious and over the top attempts to keep Green parties off the ballot. For example, in New York, where they raise the signature requirement to a level that's impossible to reach. Do any of you feel like this reflects a new fear or desperation on their end to be doing these things that are so blatantly obvious?
Hey, Sue, I don't know about you, but we met like just a wave of enthusiasm for like a multi-party democracy, for more political options when we were out there petitioning. Is that what you guys are getting in Missouri?
Yeah, when we're out there, we've actually had people join as members, and for the most part, everybody is enthusiastic about having another option, and we tell them this gives us the right to run, to the right to participate. You're not for, election fraud, are you? Or not election fraud, but suppression. So everybody has been very supportive for the most part. As far as like legal challenges, I think we're so far off their radar. If we ever became more of a threat, then yeah, they would probably take steps to, shut us down. But at this point, I don't think they even know we exist, unfortunately.
Yeah, we had the last 2 weeks of our petitioning period overlapped with our early primary voting. So we were at the polling stations.
Awesome.
and I went there, and I went to these polling stations. I mean, this is going to be a partisan spectacle. I'm just going to get yelled at for being a, Putin puppet and all that nonsense. I probably did 5 different polling stations on 5 or 6 different days, right? None of that. People who had like literally just 2 or 3, literally 2 or 3 minutes before filled out a Republican or a Democratic primary ballot, coming out and signing our petition for the Green Party. Like, that's the degree of enthusiasm we were seeing. Even in the most partisan space we could find, we were coming across people who were, and some people would say, hey, I don't agree with you, I'm not going to vote for you, but you should be on the ballot. Other people who would literally just, say, I'll vote for you in November. So yeah, that's what we were finding. So I think the question is, Ann, yeah, absolutely. They are threatened by what they're seeing in terms of the polling that's out there, but more importantly, in terms of the people who are hitting the streets and doing stuff. That's scaring them as well.
Well, thank you very much. We should leave. We want to know, encourage people to go to the plenary, because Richard Winger, who is a Ballot Access News, he publishes Ballot Access News and is considered the nation's foremost expert on ballot access laws. And many of us have worked directly with him. Really good guy, and definitely a wonderful, valuable resource that we have. Lucky to have him. So he's coming up at, I believe it'll be 2 o'clock for the plenary. And if you're registered, of course, you can join in that. I do want to mention, we have, if you check on your eventee schedules, there are other things, workshops coming up this afternoon. We will have another cafe, actually, theoretically, a half hour between 3:30 and 4 this afternoon. If we get it, it's going to depend on how things work and how things are. But this room will be open in case somebody shows up. It'll just be a short one. But then tonight from 10 to midnight, we'll have another cafe. Last night's cafe went pretty well, and as I think most of them have. So tonight, 10 to midnight Eastern time, and then again this afternoon, 3:30 if you're there. Then again tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern time. That's because Scott Lagenauer is in Vietnam, and it's morning for him. So or no, I guess it's evening for him. So he will be here tomorrow morning, 8 to 10 a.m. We've had people that show up early morning, so mostly from the East Coast, obviously. But if people are interested, that's another time to come. So again, 3:30 to 4 today, 10 to midnight tonight, tomorrow 8 to 10 a.m. And so otherwise, thanks all of you for showing up, and hope to see you shortly in the plenary. Thanks for coming, everybody, and good luck everyone with their campaigns. I'm going to end this now.